All right, here we go. Today we have retired FBI agent Seamus McElearney, who wrote the book Flipping Capo, How the FBI Dismantled the Real Sopranos, where he talked about taking down the DeCavalcante family, the New Jersey Mafia that served as a real-life inspiration for HBO's The Sopranos. Sheamus, welcome to VladTV.
It's great to be here, Vlad.
Well, let's talk about your background. You grew up in New York?
Yes, I did. I was born in New York City and raised in the Bronx.
Okay, so at what point did you decide to actually do law enforcement?
Actually, not until I had gotten out of college and actually had worked in the private sector for a couple of years. I had gone to Iona College, and after school, my first couple of years, I actually worked for my father. My father had a gas station in the Bronx. When I had gone to college, he basically helped me through college without having any student loans. So as a way to pay him back, I basically worked for him for about 2 years, and not really knowing what I had wanted to do when I got out of college, I worked for him first to repay my debt to him, and then I actually got into banking and I did audit. And I did that for a couple of years. I worked for a bank. I worked for a company called AIG, an insurance company. Then I worked for a French bank, and then I ultimately met an FBI agent because the banking really didn't serve a purpose or a passion for me. And then I met an FBI agent, and I was just enamored by that and fascinated by it, where they were just telling me that every day was different. One day you might meet a CEO, next day you could be doing surveillance, you could be going to court. So I was just fascinated by that. And at this point in time, it was during the early 1990s, there actually was a hiring freeze within the government. So there was a big push to kind of get into the FBI back then. So I applied in like 1996. And at that time in New York City alone, there was probably about 100,000 people, I were told, that were just applying back then. So I didn't have any type of service experience. I was in the Army or the Navy at all. So I was constantly told I didn't stand a chance. So I was very determined. One of my the motto in life that I have is persistence beats resistance. So that's when I first tried to get into law enforcement.
Okay, so you joined the FBI and you get into New York's organized crime squad. Why that particular squad?
Okay, so I actually get selected to go into the FBI in February of 1998. And even before then, you really don't have a choice as to what squad you get. They determine what field office you're going to go to and then ultimately what squad you're going to go to. So I get selected to go into the FBI in February of 1998. And back then, the training was for 4 months. One thing of note is right before I went into training, to stay in shape for training, I actually played basketball a lot. And I had actually hurt my knee before I went down there. And, you know, when you're young, you think you're invincible, and my kneecap used to actually pop out, and I would physically pop it back in. And I went down to Quantico, hoping that my knee would survive down there. And sure enough, when I went down to training, I had a problem with my knee, and they wanted to recycle me or actually to send me home. I was very determined to stay down there, and they let me stay down there. And, I was trying to find time to heal my knee in like a no free time type of training. And when you go down to training, you have two types of instructors, one that likes to fight and one that likes to run. Sure enough, when I went into the gym that day, and my instructor, he was about 5'2" and 120 pounds soaking wet, and he liked to run. So unfortunately, I had a runner as an instructor. But I fought through it. I refused to leave. I think they liked my steely resolve, and I stuck through there. And I had PT when I was down there just to rehab my knee. I was actually able to graduate on time. What they do is they kind of have a hazing where you're there for about 8 weeks, and they tell you what field office you're going to go to. No one really likes to come back to New York, and no one likes to go to LA. So if you're from one of those two areas, there's a 99% chance you're going to be sent back. So I was happy to hear that, because if they had sent me to any other field office, I would have been surprised and really not ready for that. So thankfully, since I'm born and raised in New York, I was born in the city, raised in the Bronx, I was actually sent back to New York. I got back to New York in May of 1998, and then when you come back to New York, they put you through a rotation. So you go through the applicant squad, you go through the operations center, and you also go through a surveillance squad. When I was on that surveillance squad, I was lucky enough to be assigned to a surveillance squad called SO2. SO2 at that time, they were supporting an organized crime squad called C10, because C10 was actually supporting a proactive witness that was trying to take down the DeCavalcante family. I was assigned to that squad, and what they were doing was they were protecting a proactive witness named Ralph Guarino. And that's how I first get assigned to organized crime, when I'm on this surveillance squad. Ultimately, I get assigned to C10 in December of 1998, but you really don't have a choice as to what squad you're going to go to. The Bureau, it's always the needs of the Bureau, and the Bureau decides what squad you're going to go to.
Okay, but now you're in organized crime. And you're going through wiretaps, and you're hearing these guys talk about actual murders on the phone.
Correct.
Okay, and now you're thinking this is pretty serious.
Yes, I am. And it's like this particular case starts in January of 1998, right before I even go to training. And the two events that kind of start this case are there's a robbery of the World Trade Center, and 3 people try to rob the World Trade Center, and they actually do, but they make the mistake is when they come off the floor, they take their mask off, and they're caught rather quickly. 2 people are caught that day. The third person flees to New Mexico, and he's caught within days. The mastermind behind the robbery is a guy named Ralph Guarino, the guy that I just mentioned that we were surveilling on the surveillance squad. He reaches out to a legendary agent named George Hanna. And as we mentioned in the book there, I don't want to give the story away, but if you buy the book, you'll see why he's a legend. But he reaches out to George, and George convinces him to become a proactive witness. When I say a proactive witness, what I mean is he's going to keep him on the street, and he's going to make consensual recordings, meaning he's going to have a device on him, and he's going to make recordings against bad guys. When you have a consensual witness, you never know who he's going to ingratiate himself against and who he's going to meet. So that's what George starts this case, and he directs Ralph for that period of time. Where Ralph led us to is he led us to the Brooklyn faction of the DeCavalcante family, because you're probably wondering, how does the New York FBI take down the Jersey family? And that's how this case starts. The second event that triggers this case is 9 days later, there is a DeCavalcante associate named Joseph Canigliaro who is killed. Now, Joseph Canigliaro was confined to a wheelchair. And how that happened was in the 1970s, him and a DeCavalcante soldier, James Gallo, went to go collect loan shark money, and James Gallo accidentally shot Joseph Canigliaro and paralyzed him. No harm, no foul, just the cost of doing business. The reason he was killed in January of 1998 is because he tortured his own crew, where he extorted them and really just run roughshod over them. So they wanted to kill him. So those are the 2 events that actually start this case. I get to the squad in December of 1998 after being on that surveillance team, and now I'm going to assist with running Ralph Guarino, who is our proactive witness. So you had mentioned having wires up. What's better than a wire is having a proactive witness who's making consensual recordings, because that is live evidence that you're getting.